Yes, hello my friends, welcome back to Bazen Graphics. So my journey so far, I'm going to be looking at what we call animations in Blender. They are not that hard. So let's first create, we shall be animating a cube. Let's create a cube. We have created a cube. So we are going to be doing animations or movements on this cube. So components that you have to use for creating animations in Blender, one of it is called a timeline. A timeline is always found at the bottom. So you have to go at the bottom and pull it out. So this is what we call a timeline. So if you cannot see it, just come to the bottom corner and you will see this icon. You will click and you will select the timeline. There are other options here, but we are using what we call a timeline. So now, this is the timeline that you are seeing, and this blue thing that you are seeing here that I'm moving is called a playhead. A playhead helps you to move along the timeline, as you can see. And the numbers you are seeing on top here, these numbers here, this is what we call frames. So they are moving from 1, as you can see here, from 1 to 150. So these are what we call frames. And what we are using right now is what we call 24 frames per second. That's what the frame rate that we are using in Blender. In Blender right now, that's the default one. If you want to check it out, just come here at the right here, these options that you can see I'm hovering the cursor on top. You select what we call output. And when you select output, inside the format, you can see that our frame rate is 24 frames per second. 24 frames per second. That's the default one. You can change according to the rate you want to use. So when they say 24 frames per second, it means now if we are to move from here up to around 24, I think 25, 24, it makes 1 second. So our timeline here is around 10 seconds, and I think you can increase it and reduce it according to how you want. So now to play our timeline, to preview our timeline, there are buttons here. There's this one here which helps us to move forward, then this one which helps us to move backwards, and these ones when you click it goes at the beginning of the timeline, and this one at the end of the timeline. So you can play, or you can click on your keyboard, you can click spacebar and you can play or preview the timeline. So now I think I've exhausted somehow the timeline. Now let's go to our viewport. This is the viewport or the scene. So like I said, we are going to be animating our cube. Now to animate cubes or objects in the viewport, we use what we call keyframes. Now, what is a keyframe? I can just define it in my own way. A keyframe is just something that stores the position or the data of an object in time. What do I mean? For example, now, let's start animating this cube. We are going to move it along the y-axis. Click on G, Y, and you can move it along the y-axis. Now we have put it in that position. We want our cube to start animating from this position. Now, how do we store this position? In time, so that the animation can remember it. We use what we call keyframes. Now, we want to start from 1. From our timeline, we want to start from frame 1 or position 1. So we are going to create a keyframe to store this data. We are going to use letter K on the keyboard. I know the previous ones, the older versions, they were using I. So the version that I'm using here is called, version I'm using for Blender is 4.50. So that's what I'm using. So letter K is the one we use to create keyframes. So to create a keyframe, remember you have to hover on this object and click letter K on your keyboard, and they'll bring for you these options which are used to create a keyframe. So the most ones that we shall be using is location, rotation, scale, and other ones. So all these ones here are used to create a keyframe. So we are going to be using location. So if I select location, we shall see that in our timeline, they will create a square that is tilted. You can see here, this one here, this is what we call a keyframe. So it has stored the information at this point on the y-axis at this position. It has stored all this data here. How do we know? You're going to press on your keyboard, you're going to click letter N. So when we click letter N, there's a panel that comes on your right. the item is called item, the transform panel. It shows you that there is the Z, there is the X, Y, and Z axis. All this information that you see here is stored in the keyframe. You understand? So now we are also going to move our cube to the next position here in the center. But we want to move it, want it to reach at let's say 20 frames per second. So here it's storing it here at one frame. There is a keyframe that has been created. Now we are moving our playhead to 20 frames per second, and we are going to move our cube to this position. So we are going to use Y, we are going to use G, Y, and we are going to move our cube to that position. Now in this position, we also want to store this information here that you are seeing here. We want to store it in a keyframe. So we are going to click on letter K, and they'll bring for you, and it'll bring for you this pop-up, and you're going to select location. So when we select location in our timeline, you see that a keyframe has been created at 20 frames. So that information here has been stored in our keyframe. So we are going to also move it again along the x-axis up to this position. So we want it to be there at 40 frames. So we are going to click G, X, and we're going to move it along the x-axis. And at this position, we are going to create a keyframe to store this information. Click letter K and create a keyframe. As you can see, they have created a keyframe at 40 frames. We want to create another keyframe at 60 frames, and we are going to move it up along the Z axis or the Z axis, depends from where you are from. So we are going to move it along the Z axis, G, Z, and we are going to move it up, and we're going to left click, and also this information we are going to store it in a keyframe. Letter K on the keyboard, and we select location, and they have created a keyframe. So now if we are to play our animation, you remember using these buttons here, we are going to view our animation. You see how nice it is? We are viewing our animation. We can even play it backward, and you can see that our timeline is playing it backward. So this is the animation we have just created. Now, if we are to move along if we are to select our keyframes like this, and we select them, we see that on our panel here, the transform panel, we are seeing color green. When you select on the side, when you select this object and you see color green, know that object or that cube has keyframes somewhere. And if we are stop on top of one keyframe, you will see that in our transformation panel here, on the location part, you may remember there's rotation, scale, dimension, so forth, but we're using location. It turns to color gray or color brown. Color brown, it's showing you that at that position there is a keyframe. If we are to move, you see it changes to color green. It's showing you that along this path there are keyframes. So if we come on top of one, it shows you that at that point there is a keyframe. Yep. So this panel here, you have to click letter N. If you want it to go back, you click again letter N, it will go back. If you click again letter N, you will see that the panel will come again. And if you select your cube, you will see the keyframes. Make sure you select the cube. That's when or an object, that's when you see its keyframes. Now, another thing I want to show you is what we call interpolation. Now, interpolation is the movement, the way the cubes move, or the object moves along this path. You understand? That's what we call interpolation. So now, as you can see our interpolation right now, if we at right click, if we highlight these keyframes and we right click and we got interpolation mode, the default one is Bezier or Bezier or Baza or Bezier. So that one is, we can take it in a way that, just understand it in a way that it is smooth. It is smooth. For example, if we play our animation, you can see that animation, every time it reaches a point or a keyframe, there's the way it slows down, and when it's leaving, it increases speed. Every time it reaches another one, slows down. As it's leaving, it's increasing speed. So it creates a smooth movement, or we can say a normal movement, because you remember when a person is running in corners or reaches points, first slows down and then increases speed. So it tries to emulate the normal way of movement. Then there's also what we call, let's right click, interpolation mode. There's what we call linear. Now this linear, for it is constant. Even if it's in a corner, it wants you to stay at a constant speed. As you can see, it's moving at a constant speed. As you can see, it's moving at a constant speed. It's not like the first one. The first one was a bit slow. Every time it reaches, let's go back. If it reaches, you can see that it reaches at the point first slows down. But linear interpolation mode, for it is moving very, very constant. It's like a robot. So this one is also important in things like when you're doing rotation, you want something to rotate constantly. It shouldn't slow down at every keyframe. Then there you will use what we call linear, because you want a constant motion. You don't want any slow down or smoothness. No, you need a constant movement. So you will use linear. So I hope you understand. There's another one which is called constant. Now this constant one, I think you've played games, and so for the movement happens when it reaches the keyframe. You can see you've played these games whereby you are using these building blocks. Yeah. So this is what, like snakes, or is it the snakes game? Yeah. The snakes game always somehow moves like this. So that's what we call constant. For it moves at the position when the playhead reaches the keyframe. So there are other ones that you can use, but mostly we shall be using this one. Now let's go back to our normal one. Which is called linear, which is called Bezier, which is smooth. Yep. This is amazing. You know, animations are not hard actually if you come to learn them. So from here there's another one. It's called let's first press letter N. It's called the editor graph. Is it a graph editor? Yeah, it's called the graph editor. This one is more professional. The professionals are the ones that use it, but it's also simple to understand. In future, I'll create a video where I'm explaining in the best way how to use it, or how it is. It's not hard actually. It's different from the timeline. It's called the graph editor. If you see animations in Blender, it's what they use. So let me just reach there a little bit, but I will have to create another video on its own explaining it. So this is our timeline. So we are going to also pull it out. We can just come here and select it, graph editor, but I wanted to put it here on the side so that the timeline can stay. So we shall go to the corner, top right corner, and we shall drag to divide the screens. So we have created two screens here. Yeah, we have created two screens. It's very important if you want to use these screens because it helps you to see all the sides. For example, if you have a lot of components. So we are going to come at the top here and we're going to select the graph editor. So this is the graph editor. Let's push this one a bit aside so that to expand it. Also this one so that to expand it. So this is the graph editor. It may be confusing right now, but it's not that confusing. Now the colors you are seeing, for example, here this one is for green, which is the y-axis, blue is the z-axis, and this one is the red is the x-axis, or blue is z or z-axis. Now remember in our animation here, we started from the y-axis. We came like this: y-axis, then z-axis, y-axis, x-axis, then z-axis. So that's why when you see in our graph editor, if I'm to use my playhead and I move from, this is the y-axis, as you can see the graph editor, this is the green color shows you it's the y-axis. So that's why it's showing the y-axis. Then we move to the x-axis, the red color is the x-axis, and then we move again to the z-axis. That's why you are seeing the blue color. So we start from the y, x, and z or z axis. So that's what it is showing you. So now these values here are the values of the animations. The values of the animations, how high and how low the animation can go. Now if we look at the distance, this distance, let's say this from here, let's start from here. The distance from here up here is longer than the distance from here up to up. So that's why this x-axis that we made, the curve is a little bit higher than the z-axis. So now, the distance, so the movement from here up to here, I told you it is this one. The movement from here up to here, it is this curve. The distance from here up to here is the blue curve. Now, if we are to change the interpolations, you see now they have a little bit of curves, and they have these things which you can edit. So if we are to change the interpolation mode, and we go to linear, you can see that our curves have changed to a sharp format. They are no longer those curvy ones. They have changed to the sharp format. Then if we change again to the constant, you see the position also, the shapes also change. Also the shapes change. If we are to go back to our Bezier or Bazaar, you see that it has changed to that format. Now let me do something small, and you understand. Maybe it will help you to understand it better. So we said that this one here, this one is the red one. The movement from here up to here on the x-axis. So if, for example, I move for example, my curve like this, and we play it, this one is at the end and this one is at the start. If we play it, and you see here at the end, you see there is something that has changed. There's some animation that has changed. You see, if we are to go back, you can see that to go back to the constant way. So all these things, I'll be explaining them later in another video of its own, but this graph editor is very, very easy to understand if you put things in an easy way and understand things in the easy way. Don't look at it as a hard thing. It's very, very easy to do. So we have created an animation. The next video, I think we shall be creating a simple clock so that you can understand our animations better.